This is a small steel supplier that's closer to where I live, so a bit more convenient. You can see I'm inside his shop here. Very organized. Anyway, beyond my sarcasm, if he doesn't have what I want, he can get it, so that's really good. With all the stuff strewn about, I'm sure this owner has strong ankles and good balance. Those rods leaning in front of the blue pails against the wall are mine. I bought some old H13 steel from him that he said was manufactured by Hitachi in Japan, and I noticed that the quality seemed better. These punches and cutter were made with that H13 steel. This is my very old round punch that I must have used 1,000 times. You can see I've dressed it down so much. And these handled ball end punches that I made special for someone is also made with that Hitachi H13 steel. I might add a ball end punch, or I think it's called a dapping tool, to the set that I sell. This is the one that I made for myself some years back, but I think this machined version is better. This is the cold chisel that I made a few videos back, and this slot punch I made from a coil spring, you'll remember. I feel it's not very suitable for hot use, and so I'm going to alter it and see if I can use it on cold work pieces. I need to give a big shout out to Rich Saunders and Chris Babin for their recent generous donations to the channel. Thanks so much, fellas, and have a great holiday season. And I dress my old round punch while I'm at it. So as most know, hot punching is how I go about making the rivet holes for my tongs. This is perfectly fine, but it can lead to some inaccuracy that takes a little bit of adjusting later on. And so I'm always thinking of different ways that I can be more accurate. So if I could at least start tong rivet holes when the pieces are cold, or maybe even at low heat, I think that might help. I often have tongs at different stages of development, and here they're sitting cold, so if I could get those holes started, that'd be great. This is the tong that I just hot punched, and it worked out fine, but that's not always the case. Plus, the higher the heat that you punch at, the more distortion that can result from within the hole. Here's another piece of that coil spring that I think I'll use to make a cold round punch. In the meantime, I'm going to try this old YK30 steel punch that I made a while back. This is an old square punch that I had laying around, and I think it's D2 steel. It could be H13, but I think D2. I've altered the business end so that it can maybe help me to start to cold punch round holes in conjunction with this YK30 steel punch. Obviously, handling and marking pieces is a lot easier when cold. Like I said, I can't know for sure, but D2 is shock-resistant steel, and it's definitely better for cold use than H13 would be. That's actually pretty good. well defined and pretty deep just for a few strikes. This is pretty thick, and so I'm obviously not going to go all the way through cold. So I think what I'll do is get these marked up as best I can, and then try to work at a low heat with this YK30 steel punch, see how that goes. So the nice thing about this is I'm not really in a rush, and there's not a lot of heat coming off the workpiece. It's a nice clean hole. I'm wondering where the slug is though. Then I notice it's stuck at the end of the punch. YK30 steel makes a really nice hammer, but it's not suitable for use on high heat applications. However, cold or at low heat seems really suitable. So I can't punch through one of my Tong blanks cold yet, but I'll see if I can punch a hole straight through cold in this piece of 1/4 inch. I put a little chisel point on the end of this punch, and that just helps it to get started. I can already see a little slit opening. So I move on to the YK30 round punch. I dressed it just before doing this just to give it a fair shot. Trying to work from both sides. I think I'm a little bit off kilter, but I'll get her done. Oh, there's a hole, and I decide to expand it just a little bit. It may not seem like much, but having the ability to cold punch in a piece of 1/4 inch thick mild steel can come in handy. While I'm at it, let me try this coil spring cold chisel. I think the point of this video is to say that doing blacksmithing doesn't mean that you have to do everything hot. Back in the day, whitesmithing was a term that was used to describe cold work that was happening within the blacksmith's shop. Apprentices would have to be proficient in whitesmithing before they could move on to hot iron work. Nowadays, a lot of garage shop blacksmiths have power hammers and hydraulic presses before they even know how to properly swing a hand hammer. But I guess that is progress to some extent. Personally, I mainly like to keep it simple, and I think that's what's kept the craft enjoyable and fun for me. So stick around, we've got more fooling around to get to.